Hello, everybody. This is Carol Milletta from the Parenting 411, where we share information parents need from sources they can trust. I am so pleased that you are joining us this evening for another edition of News You Can Use. I have a great segment planned for you. I cannot wait to sit down and talk with tonight's guest. Before we get started, though, I want to give you a bit of a heads up of what's going on here with me at the Parenting 411. So tomorrow, I have another episode of the Parenting 411 show on WOLB 1010 AM. And you can also tune in and watch it live at WOLBbaltimore.com at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And tomorrow's show is going to have a bit of a twist. I'm going to sit down with Charlotte Avery. She is the 2021 Virginia Mother of the Year, 2020 Mother of the Year for Virginia. And we're going to have a seat. She's a family strategist, does very similar work to what I do. And we're going to flip the script a little bit. She's going to interview me. She's going to ask me the questions about my new book, Mother's Work. And that is launching on Tuesday at 8 p.m. on Zoom. And it is a virtual book launch, of course. And I will drop it in the chat. The link for you to join that. It is www.carolmilletta.com/MW book launch. So I hope you'll join us there. I'm going to sit down and talk about the book, my journey, my personal journey to motherhood, and what prompted me to write the book and all of that. And we're also going to have some giveaways. So I really hope that you will join us. I will again drop the link in the chat if you missed it. And as we wrap up the show, I'll probably mention it again. So don't forget to do that. And I also will also have an Amazon book launch next week. So hopefully you can participate in that as well. You can purchase the Kindle version. I tell people, you might want a Kindle version of the book. So when especially moms, I don't know about you, but when my children were young, I did a lot of waiting. They took gymnastics, they took taekwondo, or waiting to pick them up at school. So if you don't have a book with you, you can read it on your Kindle app on your phone. You could read Mother's Work. And then also you can have a hard copy for other times that you might want to read. And if you order that from me, I will sign it for you and have a couple of goodies for you there too. So don't forget, tune in tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for my conversation with Charlotte Avery. We're going to talk about Mother's Work. And then on Tuesday, come on and join us for the virtual book launch of Mother's Work. So now I want to get to my guest this evening. Now, before I bring her on, let me tell you a little bit about her. I will be speaking with Kimberly Gowdy. She is an author and she is also a manager, a very successful manager in the healthcare insurance field. So Kimberly Gowdy was raised in Connecticut. She was the oldest of 8 children, and she has always wanted to have a child. And so she suffered 3 miscarriages in her first marriage. And so she decided that she was going to start a new life and headed on down to Atlanta, Georgia. So not only did she find a new life and new job, she also found a new partner for her life. She met and married a wonderful man who is gentle and kind and understanding. And he was also interested in having a child with her. So they embarked on that journey. And so having had the experience previously, she knew that it could be challenging. So they did consider surrogacy. And so they made numerous attempts at surrogacy. And after the 7th failed attempt, and they were down to one last embryo, they met with success in a surprising package. And I'm not going to spoil that for you. I want her to tell you all about that. But in her new book, The Colorless Womb, Kimberly Gowdy tackles the topic of surrogacy and infertility head on. I have to tell you, I really appreciated how authentic and transparent she is in telling this story. And so the book encapsulates her early struggles to conceive and carry a child to term, her journey in search of alternative ways to have a family, and the racial and societal pressures of parenthood and love. She is a licensed insurance professional for the state of Georgia, as well as 35 additional states. She is a founder and charter member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Psi Omega, the Peachtree Corners chapter down in Georgia. And she has received numerous accolades in her profession, again, in the healthcare insurance field. She is a graduate of the first the first HBCU, Cheney University, my alma mater as well. She holds a bachelor's degree in business administration with a major in marketing. And Kimberly says over the years that the major lessons she learned in life were to love and forgive people, to treat others with kindness, to not judge, and to always laugh. She says that her biggest accomplishment is, and what she's most proud of in life, is that she is a great wife to her husband and a super mom to their 8-year-old son. She currently resides in the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia, with her family. So I am going to bring her on. Welcome, Kimberly Gowdy.
Hello, how are you?
I am fine, and I am glad to sit down and have this conversation with you because I really think that it will help a lot of mothers. So let's just dive right in. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your family that maybe I did not share.
Well, Carol, I think you did a great job. You shared so much information about me, which I think is amazing. I am a wife and mom. Well, wife to David, mother to David, what we lovingly call him Doc. And I live in the suburbs of Atlanta. Johns Creek is actually the city which I reside. And I'm a graduate of Cheney University, yes, and a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, and big in insurance. I've been in part of insurance for 33 years now. And I still love it. So it's an amazing career.
So, tell us a little bit about the beginning of your journey, in terms of trying to have a child.
Well, I mean, I've been married. This is my second marriage. So in my first marriage, getting pregnant was never an issue. It was easy to become pregnant. Was sustaining the pregnancies that was an issue for me. And so I went through numerous losses in terms of wanting to become a mom, which is not unusual. I was married and I thought the next step would be we would have children like everyone else. And most people, of course, you think, hey, I get married or I'm at a certain age and I want to have children. It's just a natural progression that's what you're going to do. And when it doesn't happen, for those of us who experience infertility, you go, why me? Like, why is this happening to me? And, so I had a number of losses. And in fact, I had some late term losses that I talk about in my book. And, still I longed to become a mother. And that was something that I definitely wanted for my life.
So how did you come to decide that surrogacy would be a good choice for you and your husband?
It was a hard decision. And ultimately it was, well, I will say initially it was not something that I wanted to do. That was not something that I even wanted to entertain. And the reason I didn't want to entertain it is because having to get to that point of surrogacy, it
Mhm.
absolutely says I have failed. It is
Mhm.
it's a scarlet letter of F that says failure, because
Mhm.
you can't do something that, you believe that any woman should be able to do. And
Mhm.
so to not be able to, bring a life into the world, it it does make you feel as if, you've let your family down, because, my parents, they wanted, grandchildren from me. They had other grandchildren, but it's like, okay, she's the eldest daughter. Your spouse or your partner, whoever, you've let them down. And so that's how you feel. And getting to the point of surrogacy was not something that I wanted at all. But
Mhm.
my husband,
Mhm.
he was open to the idea after we learned about it, because in all honesty, we were looking at adoption. And so surrogacy just kind of fell into our laps only because the attorney said, hey, since you guys have embryos, why don't you look at this other option? Which we knew nothing about until, that fateful day in her office.
Mhm. Mhm. Wow. Wow. And and you really hit on something that I don't think that you are alone in feeling. I mean, like even myself, I got married when I was 30.
Mhm.
So that's older than our parents and
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
got
yeah,
married. And so, and I had always said that, when we got married, well, let's travel first and let's do this and that,
yeah.
because we won't be able to do as much when we have the children. So it's one of those things like, where we just plan and God laughs, like it's not in your hands, when you have children. And so
Exactly,
so it
exactly,
wasn't like,
exactly.
yeah. So once we decided to have children, it didn't just happen happen just like that, you
Right.
know? And so, and, then of course it's like, oh man, we shouldn't have waited this long, whatever, you start thinking,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
his
Yeah,
his time is always best. That's what I believe. And
absolutely.
so,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, and I think a lot of couples experience that and feel like you said, and I talk about it a bit in my book too, about how you check off the boxes, earn your
Right.
college degree, or and go to graduate school if you want to do that, and get
Yeah,
married, and oh yeah, have children. And I was like, it's just not a check off
exactly.
box. This is like a real journey, and
Absolutely.
a lot of things have to align to even make that happen. And I don't think everybody appreciates what has to happen to even create a life. So yeah, I can
Exactly.
definitely.
Exactly. Exactly. You just assume that, that's just going to be, that happens next. Like once you're ready for that particular thing in your life, it's just
Mm-hmm.
going to happen. You just think that that's it. And so, when it doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
you feel really let down. And honestly, going through infertility, and I've spoken to so many other women about this, just infertility in and of itself. It just makes you feel like you are less than.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bad situation. It's a bad feeling
Mm-hmm.
internally. You just feel like I've let everyone down. And so it,
Well, I hope that it's becoming less so. And I hope that, books like yours will make it less so. Because, remember too, I don't know if you've ever heard where people talk about, well, having a C-section versus, uh,
yeah,
yeah,
natural, yeah,
like,
yeah,
people would say that, if you had a C-section, then, you didn't really have the experience. I mean,
yeah,
and
yeah,
so that has fallen away, I think somewhat.
Right,
Well,
right.
actually, to a large degree. So I'm hoping that even with surrogacy, or that, or alternative means, that people will not. I hope that the people that are in the process will not feel less than, and I hope that people don't
Yeah.
look at them as less than.
Yeah, I mean, the experience of being, a mom, and I will, just, to backtrack a little bit, that was one of the questions that a friend said to me, like, is your experience, you want to become a mom, like you want to, raise a child and instill values and leave a legacy, your child? Is it that versus, going through that experience of, delivering a child? Like, if ultimately your goal is to love and to be loved by a
Mhm.
child, then what difference does it make? I mean, like, other people have other issues. It could be, a heart condition, whatever it is, whatever their ailments people could have, and your issue just happens to be that, you know bringing a baby to term is your issue. And
Mhm.
so, if you can still have the outcome, becoming a mom and
Mhm.
bringing a child into the world that you can love and be loved, and instilling the values, then it really
Mhm.
doesn't matter how,
Right.
the full process. What matters is that, you know I think I'm a good mom. I know I'm a good mom.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful. And that's really what's important. I mean, what you said is exactly right.
Yeah.
So tell our viewers a little bit about, once you all were on board with surrogacy, how did that go? Like, share with the viewers whether it was, hey, it just worked out right the first time or whatever. How was that?
Well, for me, I mean, I will say that there are agencies that, that actually specialize in surrogacy, where they can connect you with someone who they feel is the ideal candidate for you. But what I did, not knowing anything about surrogacy, there are also people who, it's almost like online dating, who have
Hmm.
sites where you can go and you can look at, people who have done this with, they've been surrogates before. They are out there saying, hey, I'll do this, I'll do that, I can be your surrogate. And you go through that. I chose to go that route of it because it was less expensive, and because I didn't know all things surrogate. So I
Hmm.
went through that experience of finding someone, and it was almost like online dating, where you're meeting someone is like, oh, you said all these great things about yourself, and then you're a cuckoo. But
Right.
that was kind of like what we went through. Like, I met this first person, and I had an idea of who I wanted to be a surrogate for us. And because I wanted to experience this as if it were me, of course, I wanted a Black woman. She was going to be, someone who I connected with, emotionally, spiritually. We were going to have like this kind of girlfriend, camaraderie, I guess, if you
Sure.
will. We were
Hmm.
going to have that. And that was what I wanted. So I went through that process, and, it didn't work. It didn't work out that way.
Right. Okay. Well, let's dive into that because, yeah, let's dive into that. Once you found the surrogate that that you decided to move forward with, tell our viewers about that and how that was for you and making that decision that she was the right one, and all of that.
Okay. Well, after we had gone through, honestly, there were three different people that we'd gone through. And I, again, she had to check the boxes. And the boxes was like, not even the boxes, but just the box that she would be a Black woman, because it would represent me at least.
Okay.
We went through 3 different, surrogates, trying to get to that ultimate where we would have our child. And we, went through the whole process. It's a long process, going from each person going through this process. And we ultimately went through 3 different people where we thought, 3 different people, we thought this is great. Didn't work out. Just didn't work out. And then ultimately was our attorney who said, hey, when we were done, I will say that we were done after, when they say the 3rd time's a charm and it was no charm, we were done. We were like, okay, this isn't for us. We will just, maybe adopt. And that's what we initially wanted to do anyway. But when she mentioned that there was someone that she had in store for us, or that she thought would be great for us, we'll say, I was not really wanting to hear it, but my husband was still open to surrogacy, to looking into it. And finally she said, this person's done it before. She went through the whole spiel. And I said, eyes rolling, like, I don't want to go through this. And I will say that my husband, he really pushed for it. My love for him, I will say, is one of the reasons, or the main reason I opened up and said, okay, let's at least meet her. Okay. And the attorney did tell us prior to meeting her, that she did not check that box that I thought, this Black woman, that she was white and her name was Heidi, which Heidi, I would say, like, it's like, other than Becky, like Becky and Heidi, right, those names are like synonymous, to someone who doesn't look anything like me. So, that was it, meeting Heidi, and we did, and it ultimately worked out. She ended up being just a beautiful soul. And so, we went through the process with Heidi.
So what do you want? Well, let me see. I want to shout out some folks that we have watching with us. Hello, Felicia Edwards, we have, and Angela Edwards. Thank you so much for tuning in. And Ruth, thank you. That's our cousin. So I'm glad to see you. And then I see there are other people, but I can't see their names. But so let's talk about what are some things that you would want mothers to know, particularly mothers that may be in, the position that you were in before, really wanting to have a child, but different alternatives they've considered haven't panned out for them. What do you think are some key things that they should know about surrogacy, pursuing that?
That it's not, that it's attainable, to have your child and go through this process. One of the things that people talked about a lot was that surrogacy is so expensive. It's so expensive. But people like me who have gone through, first it could be you go into all these acronyms. It's like the IUI, the IVF, you're going through all these things, frozen embryos. Oh, we had to do, going through all of that. It's already a very expensive process. So if ultimately your goal is that you want to have a child and, you think about the long term, it's almost like, when you're sending your kid to college, it's like, okay, yes, it's an expensive thing. It's an investment, but there's such a major payoff for your child in his or her life. That's how I look at, what I went through with surrogacy. And it took me a while to get to this point. I won't say that it was like, oh, I'm just okay with surrogacy, but I will say now, when I look at my son every day and the relationship that I have with him, it's amazing. And I sometimes say, wow, I could have missed out on
Yeah.
such a beautiful thing,
Mm-hmm.
and do I sometimes feel like, okay, I'm so behind because a lot of my friends, they have grown children and they're talking about college and, oh, I'm a grandparent and here I am with an 8-year-old, but where you are in your life and, just where you are, I'll say, God's timing is perfect timing. Where he has us in our lives is perfect timing. So, that's really all I glean to that. I look to it to say, you know what, God, whatever you have for me is for me. So if being a mom to an 8-year-old right now is for me, then that's just where I am in my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it's any consolation, I mean, I have friends like that too. I mean, my sons are older, but I still have friends that have children who are older. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
some are grandparents and things like that too. It's just, but I wouldn't trade my experience either
No,
for the
no.
world. And I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be. So I can totally
Exactly.
relate to what you're saying. Now, I guess for some people, and I know you've talked about this a little bit, but um, some people might wonder, like, what is the relationship going forward with the surrogate? I mean, is it just, thank you for doing this for us, and that's it, or how does that go?
Heidi is still like someone who she's special to us. I mean, she will always be special. And
Mhm.
you whether it's Doc's birthdays or whatever happens or goes on, especially with social media, right? You can
Mhm.
still have those connections, and plus personally, she and I have a connection. We talk and send and text messages or calls. Um, she's just always going to be a part of my life and
Mhm.
represent something that's amazing
Mhm.
because of what she did for us. I recently told my son about his birth and the whole, like the surrogacy now
Okay.
that he's 8. And the reason I had to do that, Carol, is because now that I have this book and
Right.
I'm doing interviews and I'm talking, he is like he can go online like, oh, the Colorless Womb, Mom, your book is out and the whole nine. I did not want him to learn about this like just some haphazard thing. So
Mhm.
we had the conversation and he said to me, actually, it wasn't long ago that we had the conversation, and he said to me, Mom, we have to, just say thank you to this lady Heidi because like, it's really nice. Like she really helped my mom. And so,
Wow.
it was just it was a beautiful thing. And I did share it with a couple of my sisters. Um, I was just to tears
I know.
about
I'm
it
almost in
because I
tears now.
I
Mhm.
wasn't sure what he
Mhm.
was gonna say, like how he was gonna feel about it. But he's like, I told him, I said, you know what? My my tummy
Mhm.
was broken. It didn't work. And so this is what I had to do. And he was amazing with
Mhm.
it. And
Mhm.
for him, like our bond is so strong. For him, it was like, oh, let's just thank her because, if not for her, like I wouldn't have you as a great mom. And that
Mhm.
was his position on it. And so
Mhm.
it made me really feel good.
That's wonderful. Now, what I wonder is, like, just say, for example, you weren't writing the book, or for another mom who's
Mhm.
has undergone surrogacy, she's not writing a book or anything like that. What are your thoughts about when the right time would be for a child to learn that?
Well, I mean, I think that, you know, every mom knows their child. And it really depends on maybe the maturity level, where they are. I mean, what's good for one parent, we do this at this age and then we don't do that. So it really has to be where she feels that they can handle the situation, because it's kind of like a not one size fits all. For me, because of my situation, with the book and the whole thing, I was almost like forced to kind of get in there, but I'm glad that I was able to do that. But I will say that my son, he is, he's very astute. He was just ready, for that and had an understanding. So it was good. So yeah, I would just have to leave it to that person, like anything else. When when people try to say, like, in your household you should be doing XYZ, everybody has something going on different at different times in their household, and it's kind of like whatever works for you. So that's kind of what I would say. Whatever works for you.
Okay. Now, something else I want to ask you about that I know that you have going, and I think it's part of what you're going to do next, is Moby. Can you talk about that?
Moby is Mommy Older, Baby Younger. And it's for women who were at least like 35 years of age, who became moms, whether it be through surrogacy, or your stepmom, or good old fashioned way, or whatever happens. You became a mom and you was 35 or older. And so for me, they've become a major support group. In fact, a group of my Mobies, they were here recently. My son had a birthday and they were here. And so these women just represent I don't know, they represent like a group of us where we can understand each other and that we don't feel left behind. I'll say, like, we feel like, okay, where we are is where we are. And we all can have that conversation about friends who are grandparents, where we're just now parenting, situations where, okay, somebody thought I was my kid's grandmother, but I really am the mom, all of those types of things. And you think about just a unique group where we have certain challenges that younger moms, we are going to birthday parties and we're with these moms who are much younger than us, and we're having conversations with them and trying to relate and trying to still be cool and not wearing mom jeans and trying to, still look, like you're cool. So it's a group where we get each other. So I will say that, they get me, I get them. And so we love it. So Moby.
And so is it formalized? Is it a group of friends, or are you what are your plans for it going forward?
Well, okay. So I will say we have a private group that's on Facebook. Like, you can find us, go into Moby on Facebook, Mommy Older, Baby Younger. You can find us. And so, because a lot of us live, I will say that a number of us, we live everywhere. And I think going to the Facebook page that I created, you get tidbits and, good messages, good feelings of just, you're not alone. So that is that piece of it. And then because, you have a lot of us who live in Atlanta, we get the touchy-feely where we can go on birthday parties and go to the park and do things together and still, let the children play, have a great time. And so it's good with us, having the camaraderie that we have. But for the most part, it can be anyone who's a Moby who wants to just come in and just get those good feelings to say, you know what, there are other people who are out there who look like me, which is like any other, I guess, social media or any other group. where you have people from all over the place,
Mhm.
and you want to go out and kind of see like, okay, I'm not alone. And I think that's
Mhm.
what social media has been able to do, is say, you know, there are other people who look like me, right? You know, there are others who are experiencing what I'm experiencing, and I can get some good vibes and good information and, you know, carry on. So that's what it is.
Mhm. Good, good. I think that's great. And tell them again, I want them to make sure, I want to make sure they find you on Facebook or and Instagram, wherever else that you are, with Moby.
Okay, under for Moby, mommy older, baby younger is what they'll have to go under to find
Okay.
Moby. It's M.O.B.Y, period, rather, M period, O period, B.Y. And they can find Moby that way.
Mhm.
And then there's also a link within Moby to get into the private group. Couple of questions that you'll have to answer to actually get into the group. But
Okay.
once you answer those questions, you know, you're in, and you can just see the things that we're doing within Moby.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And also, how can they follow you? If you have a personal page or anything associated with the Colorless Womb.
Yeah, the Colorless Womb on Facebook, it's the Colorless Womb. And so you go to the Colorless Womb and you'll see the book, and again, lots of information about my story, Colorless Womb. You can also follow me like on Twitter or on Instagram. It's the Colorless Womb underscore. So you can find that
Mhm.
information, Colorless Womb underscore. And if you want to go to my website, it's thecolorlesswomb.com. And so
Okay.
everything is going to be the Colorless Womb. Mhm.
Hmm. And so,
Yeah.
what's up next for you?
Well, I will tell you that I have already started writing my second book. And
Mhm.
initially, I was doing something that was more political,
Okay.
but I changed that. And
Hmm.
it's going to be something that is still going to be more heartfelt, like the Colorless Womb. It's just situations that I think more people can relate to for the second book. And it's
Hmm.
about step parenting.
Okay.
And yeah, and so it's you know, something that I believe that is going to be well received as
Oh,
well.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Now, when you were thinking about the political angle, was that also tied, did that have anything to do with like the whole thing of, you know, a woman who was not like you helping to bring your baby into the world or?
Yeah, see, like, well, I will say, like, actually, the Colorless Womb was something that led me, you know, wanting to write it now.
Hmm.
It was politics that really got this story out there,
Okay.
because I looked at, you know, the black white issue, and there's so much going on in our country right now that is just, you know, there's a lot of hate, a lot of vision that's going on in the country. And one of the things that I wanted to show with the Colorless Womb is that, although, yes, I mean, are there issues in our country? Absolutely. Have people taken sides? Yes. But at the same time, there are so many of us who are in the middle, who live with other races, and, you know, day to day we care nothing about race. We just, you know, we live in our, you know, from the suburbs to big cities, we don't care. We eat, laugh, drink, enjoy with other races, and it means absolutely nothing to us. But you don't see that. You just pretty much see that we are all, you know, we've all taken our corners, and
Hmm.
that's what we've done. We're on our sides. That's it. And so I wanted the Colorless Womb to be that more. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to bring it out. It was more because of what politics has done to our country. In terms of the book that I wanted to write that was more political, it also had something to do with, race and coming together. But I thought that, going into something that was more personal in terms of step parenting was just something that would just be a much better fit.
And let me check the stream and see, to those who are watching, let's see, Pearl Glover has joined us. Thank you so much. And let's just see if anybody has any questions. While we have a couple more minutes, please drop your questions in the chat if you have any, or if there's anything that you want, just a shout out or word of encouragement or admiration for Kimberly while we're here for the next few minutes. Please feel free to drop those in. And so, what are you doing with Colorless Womb coming up? You have anything coming up with that?
I have a number of interviews that are coming up with Colorless Womb, and I have an amazing publicist, Phyllis Cadell. She is great, and so she is just opened, some great doors for me.
Wonderful.
I do have something that there's some other things that's going on that I probably will be sharing in the future as it pertains to Colorless Womb.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you so much for spending time with me this evening. I think it's just, your book is just powerful and just so insightful and inspirational. And I just thought that during this month, it's the month of mom for me. So I'm interviewing moms on every Thursday of this month. So I thought that you would be a great choice to be on. And, once you told me about your book a while back. So thank you so much. And I wish you much success with the book. And I look forward to seeing what you have coming up next.
Thank you so much, Carol. Thank you for having me. I certainly appreciate it.
Okay. Let's see. All right, everybody. Thank you again for tuning in. Join me tomorrow on the Parenting 411 show, where again, it'll be two moms discussing mother's work. That's the title of my book, tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern on WOOBbaltimore.com. Have a good evening, everybody.